Spiritual innovation, by its very nature, brings up questions about translating tradition, the ethics of spiritual leadership, and how to navigate power dynamics in this changing environment of religion and community all over the world. So here we address all of these kinds of questions, as well as thinking about how you can grow as a leader and deepen spiritually as you move along the path of doing this work in the world.
We are born into relationship and we become human in relationship. And I think we do this kind of work in relationship. And that feels especially important when we're talking about things like integrity and ethics. It's not a Lone Ranger kind of endeavor. It really is the practice of being in relationship with folks who share your values, your vision, but who also will hold you accountable. And by accountable, I don't mean punish you. I mean, will hold you to the values that you say you want to live by or you want the community to live by. And even when holding you accountable is unpopular. So being able to surround yourself with folks who are willing to do that. I think it's important to clarify your values early and often. And not just on paper, but also in practice. And that might mean, as a community, asking, does this thing match who we say we are? And if so, how? And there's a way in which that slows down a process, right? But I think that slowing down is really important.
I have learned that integrity and ethics must be central to any type of spiritual practice and endeavor and initiative, because spiritual practice can do a lot of good and a lot of harm. In my own experience, I have found so much thirst as a seeker of truth or light or answers or peace for my own heart that I realized I was ready to put a lot in the hands of the people who seemed to have the answers to the biggest questions of my life. And I have also heard many stories of different types of spiritual abuse, intentional and unintentional, right? And I learned the importance of trusting very much the teachers that we follow, right? And as a spiritual teacher or leader, we must be aware of this responsibility, right? And the well-being of the people we serve, we support, we guide must be at the core of what we do. Even though I don't think that spiritual practice is about well-being, because it also leads us to question very deeply our views, our preferences, our beliefs, and this is highly uncomfortable. So my spiritual teacher in the Buddhist tradition says that actually kindness, a kind teacher, is the one who is willing and able to take the risk to free you from what you think and what you want. So one must trust very much the integrity of whoever we follow. So this is why ethics must be completely embedded into any tradition and practice and spiritual environments, in my view.
We live in a time in which there's this ever-present conversation about misappropriation. And I have been all over I've gone from like, yeah, never do it, to, well, what does respectful cultural borrowing look like? And I think I've sort of landed on it's just important to keep asking the question, what does respectful engagement and dishonoring look like?
So spiritual innovation is about building bridges across traditions, across lands, across cultures. And this is highly enriching, right? At the same time, We must know where we come from, right? We must know our roots. And to me, working as a spiritual innovator and translating any type of tradition or practice into a new setting, context, culture, lens must be done in a way that not only recognizes but honors deeply, respects deeply its roots. The formats we choose to spread those teachings can take many, many forms, can be very different from what has been initially done, maybe in the land of origin of this tradition. But as a practitioner, as a leader, we must drink from the source, right? And in my experience, in one of the traditions I've been initiated into, it became very obvious that I had to travel to the country of origin of the tradition to know the elders, to know the history, to know the context in which this tradition was applying, so that coming back home in the land where I live and where this tradition is spread, I can have a better perspective and relate in a sacred relationship with the elders and with the ancestors who transmitted, and for many of them who actually sacrificed their lives, right? For us to drink from the truth, right? So this is highly important, especially when it comes to ethics, right? And to integrity, so that we can innovate and open new ways for the water of the river to flow, and still honoring the mountains and the soils where this water flows from.
I think it's helpful to understand the tradition that you're innovating and have some relational ties to that, like relational ties, not just what you found in a book, but true relational ties to that tradition before you embark on finding new ways of disseminating that tradition or practicing it. And I believe in having a close and personal relationship with your shadow self. Because we're not perfect. And we're all prone to, I'll say, missteps. And it's helpful to know what those are, what our triggers, it's, like kind of a pop psych word, but what our triggers are, and what are the things that push us over the edge. So I also think there's an important practice of doing your inner work so that you can continue to do your outer work. And that's part of the being up close and personal with your shadow, and building a deep bench for yourself of like resourcing yourself, so that you can continue to be available for the outer work that you feel called to.